All right. So, hi, this is Lori from To the Trade for Interior Design Community, and I have Niall here. Hi, Niall.
Hi.
And we have Lori Umansky, which I'm so excited to talk to you because I've been a big fan for a long time. You're the CEO of your Lori U Design Collective, a refined luxury residential design service. Your mix of like classic, traditional, but with a contemporary twist. I always love your work. So I'm very, very excited to chat with you. Let's start at the beginning. So you began your design career in Texas. How did your bringing in Texas influence your passion for design?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be
Yes,
included. And we just had dinner recently, so I feel like I just met
I know
you
at
in
High
real life.
Point.
So this is a fun follow
I
up.
know.
I
And we sat across from each other, which is so great because I got to have a lot of
I
one-on-one
mean,
time, I
it's
feel
amazing
like.
though how loud 20 designers can be in one room. But I will tell you,
They did not like us.
we
They did
still
not
had a
like
good
us.
conversation, even though over the noise. So I thought it was great.
Right.
So Texas, how did Texas influence me? Well, man, I don't know. I'm a small town
Because
Texas
in
girl.
my head, I don't see your style being
I think
Texas.
that
Does
yes,
that make
and I think
sense?
that's fair. So I was born and raised in Central Texas, so New Braunfels, Seguin. It's near Austin, but both small town, kind of not middle of nowhere. I mean, it's between Austin and San Antonio. And
Yeah.
so my family lives on a ranch and had a business in town, but we're like, Texas, like we are Texas people, like 5 generations deep. So we moved. So my parent, this is going to be a long story. I'll do it as quick as I can. Parents got divorced, moved to a suburb of Houston, which I was like, "Ooh, the big city! Like, let's go." So yeah, suburb of Houston, Sugarland, when I was in middle school. So formative years, middle school, high school in Sugarland, and I think it was because of that big change was a shock to the system. And my mother had zero interest in design, zero care about how our home looked. And that was just not me. Like, I care. And I wanted to, like, okay, I'm working with what we got. I'm in 8th grade and I'm having friends over. So I've got to make this look good. So I think it was more out of necessity that I developed this desire to control my environment and really make it beautiful. Yeah, I think that's probably it's not like I grew up in a design household.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many designers that we talked to that had, right, or that knew, but some that always like from a young age just really gravitated toward design, really wanted that Martha Stewart
I'm the
life,
latter.
because we're all flipping through the
Yeah.
catalogs and
Like if
things
I'm
like that.
entertaining friends, I need to like whip this place into shape because my mother cares not at all.
Sure. Right, right. Yeah, I had the same kind of mom, believe it or she was like my mom was a work
Yeah.
mom, so she was she was in professional organizations and she spoke at different events and she was part of like the church. We had our church organization. She was the secretary for our church. So she was just like
Social.
busy lady and really never cared about the way our house
I mean,
looked.
maybe that's why I up
If
here.
we were like somewhat fed by our dad, like she was fine. So can you share like a defining moment that you had where you decided this is me. I'm going to do this for a career. This is what I'm going to do.
Actually, okay, yes, it was really when I was an undergrad. So I went to University of Texas in Austin. I was studying art, so photography, sculptural ceramics, painting. I had no idea that interior design was a career. So this is in
Right.
2000, like right around there. And I had a roommate that was in the architecture school at UT, and I was like, that's a that's a thing. Like, okay, that sounds amazing. And I was too far in to change majors. It wasn't going to happen. So I graduated when I realized that interior design was a career choice. Immediately went to work for an interior designer doing commercial interior design. Love this woman. She's amazing. She designed car dealerships, which is about as glamorous as it sounds. So I worked with her for about a year and then went back to graduate school to study architecture when I finally realized, oh, I can do this for a living. Like, I love this so much. I can actually do it. So I went back to school and studied.
So you in that I want to kind of
Yeah.
break that down so that you had this great like teacher, mentor kind of person, that first job that you really loved, but the work was probably not as fulfilling, I would
Yeah.
assume. Is that part of the reason you went
Yes, for
back
me,
and decided you wanted to
yes,
do
I wanted
more?
to be in residential interior design.
Right.
And I felt like I did not have the knowledge base because, like I said, I didn't grow up with this
Mm.
house that was like designed by a designer or my mother. Or I had no knowledge base for it at all. I had an art degree, great, but I really felt like I needed that technical knowledge and that process knowledge. And so, yeah, that's why I went back and got my master's. I really just wanted a super strong background in technical and that like just design phase world that I wasn't familiar with.
Did you feel like there was, because we have a lot of designers who come on the podcast who talk about this sort of
Mhm.
journey, and did you feel like you got enough business education? Is
No,
that
no, no,
something that you
no.
thought that was missing?
Zero.
Because
Which
that's what
which
I
is
always
why I
hear from
do what
everyone.
I do now. But no, I didn't. So
Yeah.
my father he's an entrepreneur. He had his own business. And so I watched him. It was built by my great grandmother and then by my grandfather, and then my dad took over. And so I watched him grow and really scale our family business. It was not anything I was interested in taking over myself. He owned a nursing home, which is so far from what I wanted to do. My siblings didn't take it on either, so he ended up actually selling it and retiring. But I watched him grow and run a business. So I think that's why I felt like I could do it. I've always wanted to be a business owner. I've just always been, I think just it is either by genetics, like it's in my DNA from my family, or osmosis or something, but I just really absorbed that business sense from him.
Yeah, and I think some entrepreneurs, not all, but some entrepreneurs, it come like I sense this when we had our conversation, because like I just feel like that came naturally to
To
you.
some
The
extent.
world of business came a little bit now. I'm sure you grabbed at every bit of information you could along the way, but
I did.
you
Yes,
like
I
it.
do.
You like
I do. I
learning about
love
it.
business. I think it is like the most freeing
Yeah,
thing you can do is be an entrepreneur. And yeah, so
right.
I've always intended to own my own business. I luckily, not luckily because it is by design, married also an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur now, but in technology. So my husband is like, he had some excellent mentors. So I learned through him what he was learning from his mentors in the tech world. And so, yeah, I think I've just had like a lot of support through him as a partner. But then also, I read nonstop. And early in my career, I just read every business book I could get my hands on. And I'm like a self help junkie also.
Right.
So,
I love I still stay on
yeah,
top of it. All the design news. I know when things are
love it.
changing, and for like SEO, because your husband's an
You
SEO,
know,
right? Like
not,
tech and SEO.
not necessary. Yes. In the past, he's had businesses that focus on SEO for like Fortune 100 companies. He is just like everyone else pivoting to AI. And so now he's in
Yeah,
took AI.
yeah.
He sold his last SEO technology company. So he's now moved on to the next.
I'm
I love it.
curious
I
though,
love it.
did you feel like your master's program prepared you for residential at all? Did you feel like you were
I think it
prepared?
prepared me for the process of design, which can be applied to commercial or residential. And I think it prepared me with design thinking. I went
Okay.
into that program knowing nothing about even how to develop or I like have an idea about a concept for design. I didn't know. Our art school did not
Wow.
prepare me for that. So I feel like
Even have even after having worked with the other designer for a year, you
no,
wow.
not really. I mean,
That's
I
so
understood the
interesting.
process, but like when I was working for her, I was an assistant. I was doing CAD work and going to the site, running
Okay.
errands. It
Got it.
wasn't like I was running a
Yeah.
project. I was just very much an
Yes.
assistant, which is I learned a ton. But I think going back to
Yeah.
school, you learn how to take a concept and develop it. And it's not
Yeah. Yeah.
necessarily applicable to running a real life project. As we all know, who
Right.
if you come out of design school, you
Right.
know what the hell you're doing when it comes to like real life design. But I think it just helped me also be able to describe the work and describe the intent behind the design. I think it was really valuable in that way.
Yeah. And
That's
how did
so
you develop
interesting.
your style too? Because from that world where you're you're learning from the commercial side, and then you get into your master's, and then you have a distinct style, which I love that you do. But I think that, how did you get to that point where you were like, this is what I like to do? This is
I
the
think when I started, my own firm, so I worked for another firm in between grad school and starting my own company. And I got
right,
that residential experience, but it was pretty niche. I worked for a company that does only vacation homes, and they focused on Cabo San Lucas. And so
Wow.
my last year of grad school, I stepped into this role with this company as an assistant again, but I got to see how they ran these really complex international residential projects. And I had a mentor at that company as well. I got to see how they ran purchasing and all of those things. And so when I launched my firm, I took out a loan and I opened a storefront because I wanted to run my projects really in a specific way. And I wanted to make a profit margin that required a storefront so I could buy from the vendors that only sell to retailers. So there was a
right.
lot. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but there was just a lot of that.
That's
It was complex.
complicated. But do you think that prepared you for having multiple
I
locations? Do you think that
do.
international, being able to be not in this place that you're designing, did that help
Circle
with
back.
that
Yeah, circle back. I
transition?
lost the plot there. But yes, the question was about the design style. But I think that early job working internationally really influenced it. And now I
Yeah.
just liked what I liked. And when I opened my storefront, I kind of went a little crazy and just like designed these like over the top pieces for my storefront because I could. And so I think that's really influenced it. But yes, I think running my projects the way that we do, which is they're really streamlined. We have a very strong process. Yes, that has enabled us to have multiple locations and work all over the world too. So we've worked internationally.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm doing actually, I'm going this weekend to ICFF, and we have a little get together at Costa Boda Oriforce, and SKS is going to have to take everybody out to dinner afterwards, which is very
Right? Yeah.
fantastic. Designers, so we're going to have like another night, the same thing that we did at High Point, and the whole conversation is going to be about international
Yeah.
design, because when we pull our audience over and over again, that's always the dream, right? Like running an international project, but there's a lot of
It
logistics.
sounds dreamy and
You
it sounds glamorous. I mean,
it sounds
it's
glamorous.
hard, but we really just treat our projects, whether they're in Houston or in Aspen, where we have our second office, or Abuja, Nigeria, where we've worked before, or Zurich or wherever, we treat them the same as we would like any other project. They all follow that same project, the same process. The logistics are different for everything, but
Are you sourcing when you're doing that? Are you sourcing this? Because I know that for a lot of designers who work in the United States, when they get selected for an international project, it's because that client likes the American aesthetic
yeah,
too. Do you have a hard time selecting, or is are you pulling from your resources and shipping over? How do you handle
depends
that?
totally on the project, but primarily sourcing here, putting it on a container and shipping it. Yep.
Putting it on a
Yes,
container,
but if
shipping, yeah, because like usually that's what they want anyway. If they're hiring a U.S. designer, it's because they want
right.
usually the U.S. layout, the
It
U.S.
just depends though. Like some of the projects they do ask us to source locally. And in that or like
Oh, really?
regionally. And in that case,
Mhm.
Right,
it is outside of our process, but we still do it. That's pretty rare. That's pretty
right. And you've locked down your process pretty
yes.
tight, and you run a tight
Yes.
ship.
Yeah, I do.
um, what are the challenges with that? How do you keep everything so organized?
Indoctrination of my team. I'm just kidding. But yeah, for real. They
Yeah.
know the process, they absorb it, they believe in it, and we just repeat. And like every project is a little different. Like we're custom, we cater to our clients, we
Right.
do it the way we do whatever they're looking for. But the projects that are the most successful are the ones that do adhere to this kind of linear process that we follow.
Yeah, so you have
Yeah.
tight SOPs that you
Yep.
standardize, and your team is well
Yes.
aware. And I'm sure we had, a lot of designers that are kind of on that success train, and that seems to be a common thread
Yeah.
between the designers who are really, really successful and have multiple offices or do lots of, projects that are around the country or around the world, is having really, really great
I
process.
think that's
and really refining it too as problems come up. Like a problem comes up,
Yes.
you adjust your piece so that that problem never comes up down the line
Totally
again.
true. I think that's true. So we have this, we're not rigid. We have a strong process, but we will adapt and adjust as needed. And it may depend on location, it may depend on client personality, it could depend on the builder and the length of construction, but we will definitely pivot where we need to. But I do think we still have that strong, like, I see it, it's very linear to me, but it's like this backbone of a project that keeps it very, it's our foundation. It just keeps us very strong. So when we do have to go outside of it, it's okay. It's not going to break. I think the hardest
Right.
thing and the most inefficient thing you can do is run every project completely differently.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that goes along with billing, that goes
Yeah.
along with how you onboard, how you work the project and the expectations you set. And I also really love and admire that you're the kind of person that kind of goes with the flow. You don't let things shake you too much.
I'm
And
glad it looks that way.
it looks that way to me.
And maybe there's like a lot of internal turmoil or something. And it's calm on the surface, but underneath, I'm like that duck is like kicking its feet. And I say it now, like we have processes now, but I've been in business 18 years. So for someone that's just starting
Right.
out, you're not going to have it figured out. Like I didn't know where the heck I
Yeah,
was
No.
early
exactly.
on because I didn't go business.
But you're super lucky you live in a world that there are so many awesome people that are there to teach you things. Like that
Now
is
they are.
that is
When
cool.
and that's why I like to support other designers because when I started, that didn't really exist. I didn't have someone else to lean on. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally went to Barnes and Noble and took out the only business book on interior design. There was one. I have to find it.
Was that Keith Granite book or
It was
no?
a blue hardback, like textbook looking thing.
Yep. Yep. I know
Yeah.
exactly,
And it
what
had
you're
like
talking about.
example contracts in it and things like that. Like
Yep.
started my business in 2006, 2007, there was nothing. And so I
Yeah.
feel like
A little CD-ROM at the back.
maybe,
I think
I don't know
CD-ROM.
if that may have been a
Yeah,
later
like-
update. Like,
yeah.
so no, I like if you're just starting out and you don't know what you're doing, that's okay. Like I had no clue. And I think I
Yeah.
probably didn't have really strong processes until I was 10 years in, which is a long time.
You know, I think that a lot of people are resistant to process because they think that it could be different. That they might be the exception, not the rule, and then they're very afraid of being confident. Like it's a fear thing, I think, too, when especially if you're starting yourself. You have to build up the confidence in yourself to say, I have to have this in order to, keep everyone on
Like who
in
am I to
line
say
and
how
make
this
sure that
goes?
things are going.
You mean? Yeah.
Yes, because I think there's a lot, you view yourself as a team
Yes.
player, and there's a lot of people on the
Yes.
team. And so you don't want to have rules because you want to adjust to everyone else's rules and how
Don't
they're
do
doing.
that.
But that can go terribly wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting because we actually run into that from time to time where someone new will come onto the team. They've done it their way for a long time and they come in and we're doing it our way, the way that works for us. And we call
Sure.
it the guided design experience. That is what we call our process. It's the guided design experience because we
I
are
love
the
that.
guide. We are taking our client through this process, which can be extremely rocky and stressful and expensive for them. We're here to guide them. And that is the purpose. So I think even if you feel, I don't know, like a dictator and you're like, this is my process, get on board or get the hell out. You're doing it for a reason. So I think you need to think back to why are we doing this? It's not just for fun. It's not because I feel like I'm going to be in charge. So you listen to me. It's because we're guiding. And when you get off, when you step away
Right.
from that process or you're breaking it, you're no longer guiding. Like that job is guiding you. Like that job is on you.
Right. You're just reacting
Yes.
to
And that is the
whatever
worst
comes beyond
space
the
to
right.
be in.
Right.
Reactive. It's like, don't be
Yeah.
there. Don't exist in that space. It's horrible.
Right. Right. It is. And I think that a lot of designers get stuck in that phase for quite a while in that, lack of
easy.
confidence, lack of being able to take
Yeah.
charge. And that's where there are problems and miscommunications down the line. How is your communication style with
That's a
subs
great
and,
question.
different people that you work
That's a
with?
really good question. So the communication style is structured. again, but we also, that's probably the one place that we bend a little more for clients. It's really how the client wants to communicate. But we still communicate in a very structured way. So whether it's email, text, phone, whatever, if they want to meet in person, we'll change those, like the meeting cadence or how we meet for them, but we're still creating an agenda for that meeting, or our email is structured in a specific way because we are imparting important information. We're not just writing a novel for no reason. Like everything's very structured, but we really defer to the client and say, how do you like to communicate?
I love that because some clients don't want to know.
Some don't.
They're like, okay, I need to know the things I need to know,
That's
but that's it. I don't want to know the rest
then
of it. I
someone
trust you, which is the ideal client.
Yeah.
Frankly,
Yes.
you want the clients who don't need the novel.
We love the clients that trust us to, and that's why we're the guides. They trust us to guide them, and that's what we want to do. But we also welcome those that are really collaborative and want to be very involved. But just because they're collaborative or involved doesn't mean they don't trust. So it's really that client trust that is critical to the process. Once they lose trust, which is easy, at whose ever fault it is, maybe they're just not a naturally trusting person, or maybe we screwed something up and we didn't take responsibility quickly enough. If you lose that trust, that's when things break down, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the scary part is when, the client, that's when things go really, really wrong. I mean, you can get fired, or the client, you have to fire the client. It's all that kind of
relationship
messy
for the
stuff.
rest of the project. And that may be worse.
Oh, which is even worse because then you're like in a terrible divorce kind of relationship.
Right. So,
we're getting divorced.
Exactly. That's why we like to stick to our process, because if we do, we can avoid that and we can maintain that trust. Like that's our best chance to do that.
Have you always been an organized person? My husband always says I'm resistant to organization.
Yes.
He teaches me that I'm like, I will resist. I am organized, but I am organized my way. And he does not like that. He's a very, very regimented person.
Yeah, I'm organized, but I think only so I can think straight and be creative. Like as long as I'm
I get that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like as long as I'm organized and like everything around me, I know where it is and things are on schedule and my calendar's organized, then I can be like, oh, that's done. Now I can go be creative. Yeah.
Yes. Totally get that.
Right?
Totally get that.
I think it gives me freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, once everything is, there's a plan, then you can play.
My husband is on like yours probably. He's like the more rigid, organized. Like if something is outside of that, it drives him nuts. I'm not like,
my like if I showed him my home screen right now that I've got photos on.
Oh no, I can't do that.
They're not in folders. They're not, everything is not organized. Because I have a working section and then I have my organized section. He doesn't like that I have a organized section.
I think I may be on your husband's team there.
Yeah, he's very organized. Everything's in its file folder. Everything.
My desktop's pretty clear.
Yeah, I have like 30
How
pictures.
many tabs do you have open right now?
5.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's reasonable.
That's not terrible. I mean,
sometimes I'll walk behind someone working in my studio, one of the designers who's sourcing, and she has like 80 tabs open. I'm like, oh my God.
See, that's crazy. But I will say, if you look at my phone, like how many apps I have open, probably 100,
0.
and he does not. He
No.
usually has. You're that person
yes,
too? Oh my God.
I have one. Nope, I just closed it. I had one open.
I'm constantly like, slide.
No. And
like once every month, I'll like.
That's hilarious.
How do you live? Niall, where do you fall on this?
I go back and forth.
So
all
I'm
the time.
probably in the middle. I think I'm in the middle because I do have stuff on my desktop. I do have, probably like right now, maybe 30 tabs open.
Yeah.
I do, but I can't have physical, like that digital stuff. It bothers me to no end. I know that I have to have it cleaned up, but I have to do it the right way. I'm one of those people that it's got to be done right. I can't just throw it places. So it will stay in a random place until I can put it correctly away. But like around me, it cannot be chaos. It's got to be, because I can't work.
See, I
just cannot.
I'm organized on all fronts for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah.
It may be
I can't.
I
Yeah.
wish I was more, honestly. That's a goal for me. I've been thinking about getting more and more organized. And over the years I have come up with little task lists that make
And
me organized. And I think
I think
AI is
Apple makes
helping a
it
lot
easy.
too.
Apple makes it very easy to do now because those
Yeah.
stacks, they are very misleading because now you can stack everything. So it looks like your desktop is so neat because it's like you could have 3 million pictures and they're all, it's
Yeah.
like one little
They're
icon
stacked nice
because they're
and
all
neatly.
stacked.
Yeah.
Want to
So it's like,
know
oh, my desktop. So it's like, it's very
something that's
misleading.
going to blow your mind is I am a PC person. I'm not a Mac person.
Mm.
That is blowing my
Oh my
mind.
God.
I can't with a Mac laptop. No, that's my husband. I don't even understand how you guys do it.
Well, no, I don't. I need a
used to be
mouse
PC.
with a laptop. And the worst thing that Apple ever made is this thing. Instead of them trying to keep redoing the iPhone, they should figure out how to make a mouse. Like, we don't need a new
I love
iPhone.
my
Figure out how to
iPhone.
make a mouse.
My laptop.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the iPhone is fine. They don't. So I get a PC. So I work on I have an HP
Okay.
mouse for my my
Oh,
Mac. So
oh
I
gosh,
and I
you're
don't
like,
like the laptop at
no,
all.
you're mixing.
Yeah, I can't do the trackpad. So I'm with you there, but I am totally on Mac. I
No,
can't do a
nope.
PC anymore. I don't even know how those work.
I don't have Mac.
I don't either. I've been at least 20 years Mac because we switched over. I worked for manufacturers, so I worked on regular PC CRM, like CRMs, things like that. So we loved that for CRMs. It took me a while to switch over to the Mac, but I do like the closed environment. Like I can pick up my text messages on my Mac versus on the computer. I can throw things onto because I'm constantly like, someone will send me a photo and I have to put it into a graphic and I throw it onto my computer and mess around with it in Photoshop and then throw it back onto my phone and send it onto Instagram.
Benefits, but I also, my husband will text me and it's like rapid fire text because he's doing it from his Mac. And I'm just like, I need you to get onto your phone and slow the hell down. Like, stop.
How do you feel about voice memos?
Oh God,
people are
not do that.
No. You're not a voice memo person.
No. I have one friend.
I get lots of them. I don't give them either, but I get them all the time.
I have one friend that voice memos and I wait till it transcribes and I read the transcription. Do not do that to me.
I love it. I love that. I know. I'm old school. I'm like, I'm not up with this voice memo stuff.
If I wanted a voice memo, I'd call you. Like, no.
Right. We could just have a conversation. How about that?
That is so
funny. I'll get lots of them in DMs. People will memo me like 50 times in DM. Like they're like, I'm having a problem. This is what's going on. I'll have to listen to each one.
Oh my gosh. No, I would just delete.
Welcome to my world. So what role does travel, because you're doing all these international projects, you're traveling back and forth, play in inspiring your design concepts right now?
Okay. I love to travel. Right now, I'm pretty tired because I came off a really rough travel couple days.
Right.
Not go as planned. When it works, it's excellent. I travel for work. I go back. So I live in Aspen, but I go back to the Houston studio once a month. So I'm there. So I travel at least once a month. But I love to just travel for fun. I love to travel for inspiration.
Sure.
I love going to conferences. Like we just went to High Point, which is so fun. And it's hard. It's hard work, but
oh, it is. Yeah. It's a long day. It's always a long day and a lot of
else
working.
do you get to see everyone? I like that. And then I travel internationally like a couple times a year usually. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have a favorite place?
Depends, for work or for personal?
Personal. I would go personal because that's where you probably get
personal. Aspen used to be my favorite, but now I live here because I loved it so much. Now I love going to south of France, and it depends on the time of the year. I love Italy. I mean, pretty much anywhere in Italy. I love the culture. Last summer, we went to Mallorca and had a great time. It was really peaceful and wonderful, but usually European, like some sort of European coastal trip. Yeah.
Destination coastal trip. Yeah. That's always really fun. Of course, like Paris, Barcelona.
Paris.
I love Paris.
Yeah, but south of France is probably like top.
It's probably my top two. I love either the south of France or northern Italy. I like both.
Yeah. Yes.
Those
same
areas.
So I think this summer we're going to go to Lake Como, which I've never been.
Yes.
And I
Ooh,
love Northern
fun.
Italy, but like I've never been to Como. So we're gonna go there for about a week, and I don't know from there where, but we have we're like planning and plotting another week somewhere else. So we'll see.
Nice.
I tried to get so Niall's in
Ooh.
Italy a few months ago, and I tried to get him to go to Cinque Terre because I love it
Yeah,
there. It's so
yeah,
beautiful there. I'm like, this is like living in a postcard.
for sure. Yeah. And my daughters over the summer,
uh,
I have 13-year-old twins. And so they are both going to camp. So one of them is going all summer, which is crazy. The other
oh
is going for 4
wow,
weeks. So my husband and I are like, where are we going? We
we
can
gotta
go
go
wherever
somewhere.
we want. Yeah. So that's a Como trip.
Yeah, that sounds
Nice.
fantastic. I love that. Especially when you can stay for a long time. I think the best vacations I've ever had, I've at least been able to stay for 2 weeks and
You get
really
immersed.
disconnect,
Yes.
really dig
I mean, it
in.
takes like
Yeah, you
4 or 5 days just to decompress and like stop thinking
it
about
does.
stuff
It
going
does.
on. And we usually
Yeah,
will,
you're unpacking, you're
yeah, so
adjusting.
we'll rent a
Yeah,
villa or like a flat, depending on where we are. I don't love hotels.
yeah,
I'd rather be like, I'd rather feel like a local and like be in a house or a flat or something like
sure.
that if I'm there for a long enough time.
I agree with you. I love an
Mhm.
Airbnb. I love an Airbnb. I do it at High Point too, by the way. I do
I still have not figured
Airbnb
out.
in
That's so
Greensboro.
I've not
interesting.
figured that out yet, the
Yeah,
Airbnb at High Point. I'm always a hotel person at High Point.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm definitely a hotel person, no matter where I go. Yeah.
No, we want to cook, we want to grill, I want a pool.
Oh,
I love to go to
The
grocery
really?
gross,
stores,
yes,
internationally
yes,
especially.
European.
I mean, they're the best thing to do is
Their
go to a grocery
produce
store
in
in
Europe
an
is so
international
good.
country.
No, I
It
do that at
is.
home. I don't want to do that on
No, no,
vacation.
no, no.
No.
Niall,
But
you're
it's
missing
like the
out.
things you can't get. Yeah, you don't
I
even
don't
know that there's little things you can it's not even always cooking stuff. Like
no.
when we were in Barcelona, we got, those little mini chocolate donuts that you
Yes.
get it here? Well, we got them in Barcelona and they are like
Yeah,
30
I mean,
times
here
better.
they're like Twinkies.
Like
Yes.
plastic kind of gross chocolate. I mean, this was like real
Yeah.
chocolate on it. And we were like, we went every day to get
Telling you, and
donuts.
same in
Yeah.
girls.
And you'd think I'd gain weight, but I didn't gain a pound. I was like drinking so much wine and eating so
Yeah.
much
I don't like a
cheese
hotel. I
and
feel too
ham
locked
and
in. I feel like I've got to eat at their restaurants,
yeah.
and I don't want to do that. I don't want to see all these people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I no, no, no,
I am not going to
no.
try to convert you. Talk to me in 10 years when you're sick of the hotel.
I mean, we do it a couple times a year. We have timeshares, and so we do all the cooking and all that stuff with the kids a couple times a year. So I think I have enough of that. Like I get that when we do Hilton Head and all that. So it's like when it's
Uh,
just adult vacation, hey, I want a spa.
you
I
can
need a
still do all
butler.
you can
I need
still
the whole
do all
bit.
those things. You can still go to the
Yeah. You
beautiful
can still hire the chef. You can
masseuse can
have
come.
like a masseuse come
You can go to
in.
the spa down the street.
Uh,
But who's coming to clean up? Like
The
I want to feel
housekeeper,
like
my
I can.
friend.
yeah.
Okay. All right. I've got to, I'm going to pick your brain then offline.
No,
'Cause I,
no, you just set all that stuff up and then you don't have to deal with hotel life.
But it is fun to go. You're right. It is fun to go to the
I
grocery
love it.
stores and
I
check
know.
those
I think it
things
is.
out.
My
I love it
husband is
too.
like, he loves to grill out. So we always get a place with a grill. And he
nice.
also finds wherever the local gym is because he's a crazy person. And so, like, we'll be in some small French town and he's like going to the gym and using Google Translate to try to figure things out.
I love
It
it
is
though.
fun.
Smart. I mean, keep up. Although I usually walk around enough. I'm like, that is my
Right.
gym for the day. I
I mean,
walk
that's
like
I'm gonna be
15,000
fine
steps.
with
I'm
you.
good. Yeah. So when did a project not go as planned and
Oh my
why
God,
was
all the
that?
time. I'm trying to think about a really horrific example. I don't know. Typically it's because the full team isn't aligned. And I mean, us, the client, the builder, usually someone's out of alignment or the communication is broken down. We had one that was pretty bad actually, we were working on two projects simultaneously with the same builder. And we'd never worked with this builder before. It was a strange series of events where the client brought the builder with them and we just happened to get him on two separate projects. And he was a relatively new builder working on really big projects, and we're really collaborative. If there's an issue, we want to solve it with you as a team. This builder in particular didn't work that way. He was very much like a finger pointer and an excuse maker. And so it was
Oh,
just a communication breakdown. We ended up stepping out on one of the projects, just like we can no longer serve
with this-
you in the way we want
work
to.
with this person.
We can't do this with you. So we backed
Right.
out of, we did step away from that project. You know, we tried to set up the homeowner as much as possible when we stepped out, but it just wasn't going to be successful. The other one, we did stick it out with him. It was just really painful. Like, but when I have a team member come in crying after a meeting with the builder, we're just not going to stand for it. Like, there's no reason
No.
ever to have to deal with
No.
something like that. He was just kind of abusive and shitty. And I would say that's probably the biggest issue. And that was even a few years ago. That wasn't even recent.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that happens. I mean, I think it's really difficult when you're in those situations because you're thinking, you know, how can you can't, sometimes you can't, you're not in charge of everybody else that is on
Right.
the project.
No.
So you can't control how they behave. And some of that can be really
Yeah.
out of line and it can affect your own personal mental
Yeah, and I
health
think
and project and how you run your
when
business.
when it
And
comes to that, I will choose my team every time. Like,
sure,
there's no reason.
sure,
And
absolutely.
we actually did change our contract. So we're never losing. We are either winning or we're learning. And so we learned from that we needed to
Right.
change our contract.
I love what
Yeah.
you just said. That's awesome. We can
Yeah,
highlight
I
that one.
think, you know, my COO, Melissa, would disagree. She's like, that is toxic positivity. Like, sometimes we just, like, no way. I learned my lesson on that. I'm not losing. Yeah, I'm a weird optimist. But I think we did change our contract to include language around when we should be able to step out of a project if something like that's happening.
Right, right. Are you always the behavior or the mindset of when that does break down, when the client relationship is not good, trying to manage it so the client, you can do it as gracefully as possible? Or are there times you want to just like let them
We don't let them have it. We recently we did break up with a client in the last year or so just because she wasn't mean. She abused our time. Like, we would get 40 text messages a day. And some of them would just be, and it was just always pressure. And she didn't want to follow our process or adhere to our timing or listen to our guidance. It just wasn't a fit. And we just let her know, like, here's all your information. And so we gracefully backed out. And then I just stopped responding once it got real out of hand. So, yeah.
nasty. Yeah. You kind of have to sometimes let them blow out of
Yes.
steam. Like it's just a lot. They sometimes just need to vent
yeah.
when they're not getting their
And
way.
we try to anticipate that. Like, we're interviewing our clients just as much as they're interviewing us now. Like, we've been in business long enough that we've gotten to that point, luckily. Not all the time. You know, sometimes we're like, wow, we really need that project. But sometimes we're like,
Right.
I don't think that's a good fit, and we just have to pass. But you can't always anticipate how someone's going to be 6 months down the road. Things change.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would think a good, like, clear line for most designers, if you're listening, is if someone is really entering into any sort of abusive behavior toward you or saying something that you would consider abusive, and that doesn't mean like having expectations or putting pressure on you, but like truly being abusive, calling you names, yelling at you, swearing at you, things like
absolutely.
that. Immediately hang up. Immediately stop talking to them. You don't need to take that. You can have a hard line and not listen to that.
100%.
So give yourself permission.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we care. Like, we care about our clients, and we want to do our best. And so we do help with quite a bit because we are in the service industry, and we want to make them blissfully happy. But sometimes you just can't. And it's often hard to know where that line is. But yes, you're right. If someone is making you shed tears or like you're losing sleep, it's probably not healthy.
Right. No. And your mental health is worth a little bit more than that. So absolutely cut those ties. Well, I'm glad you do that. I'm so much to learn from you. And I want to make sure that our designers that are listening follow you
Yes.
everywhere, come and find you because you're just like a ray
Oh,
of
great.
sunshine and you have such a great view. Adore you.
I mean, I'd love for everyone to follow me. So the business name is Laura U
Yes.
Design Collective, and then also at Design Dash. So both.
Yes. Yeah. You've got to follow. You've got to pay attention. Laura
We're
is
around.
awesome and you're going to be everywhere.
We're trying, Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This is so much fun. I could talk to you for like 3 more hours, but I'm sure we'd be.
I know. I'm the same way. I get on these calls. I'm like,
Let's
it's
go.
already time. I can't believe it.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.